Okay. So yeah, I've created three arrays. Okay. So just to show you the example that you can do this way. But we're gonna keep the first one for now. Okay. And then if I want to add a new item at the end of the array, then do you guys remember what was the method that I was using to add a new item?
Push.
Push, yes. So I would say bag dot push. And then if I'm pushing something and I need to provide what I'm pushing, right? So I need another item, kale. Okay. It's a really an interesting mix of items. So now if I want to look at what is my bag looks like, then I would say console.log.bag and run this. And now I would see all the items that I have, and the last item is kill. Okay, let's all try this. I want you to be really expert in arrays because arrays are really fundamental, you know, of JavaScript. If you can master, manipulating arrays, you can do a lot with it. And always visualize a physical object, right? It's literally a bag with, when it's a string, it's really pen, pencil, and then you're putting top of each other, right? The last item you're putting is kale. So now you have a bag full of items. You would see the kale is on the top, right? So if you remove the first item that is accessible is kale, right? So now if I want to remove it, do you guys remember how to remove items? What was the method?
Pop.
Yep, pop. So I would say pop. And you don't have to really pass anything, right? Pop means just removing it, which means I'm not saying what I'm removing because it's a first item that I'm or last item, should I say, in the array, right? So kale is removed. So this is first, this is last, right? This is the bottom, this is at the top. All right, so if I console log, and run this, I would not see kale, right? So always clear this up. So you don't see always clear this up before you run. So you have a fresh look of things, right? So now I can see that I have all these items, then because this was here, right? This is after adding, so this is before. Then I popped that last item. Now, again, if I console log, it gives me this list. Okay. All right. So yeah, remember, pushes item at the end, pop removes item from the end, right? And it's an easiest operation because, if you have a line, if the person joins a line at the end, nobody's got to move, right? If you insert somebody in the middle, then everyone's got to move. Okay. So JavaScript also allows a mechanism such that you can insert something in the middle or anywhere, right? The front or middle or anywhere. So how do I insert in the front? So let's look at those methods. I'm gonna remove this. So let's here. It's a kind of weird name, bag dot. All right, Rahim already knows because he's from last class, but yeah, I'm glad that you remember. Unshift. Okay. So why unshift? Always remember like the meaning of something, right? Why unshift? Unshift is basically, okay, I'll just, I'm gonna just comment this out, pop, and I'm gonna insert Kale in the front. So let's run this. Okay, so I've inserted Kale in the front. Okay, so this unshift insert in the front. So why is it called unshift? So if you remember that, then you remember that to insert in the front, you need to use unshift, right? Push and pop makes much more sense. If you have a bag, you push something, you pop. Even though I think pop, doesn't make sense. But if you remember that way, it's much easier. Unshift is basically if I put something in the front, if I remove something from the front, think of this way. If I remove pen from the front, what's going to happen? Pencil's going to take pen's place, milk's going to take pencil's place, computer's going to take milk's place, right? Everything's shifting one step to left, right? Unshift is the opposite. You insert something in the front. So everything, even though they are shifting, is shifting this side, right? So unshift means insert the front, insert to front. Okay. Opposite of unshift is shift. So write this down. Shift. Basically, you don't have to pass anything. Shift means remove the first item, which means it's going to shift the whole line. Let's say if you have something at the bottom, let's say if you visualize your bag, right? And in order to get something from the bottom, you have to put your hand inside, right? You have to, and then you're going to shift things, right? Because if you remove the item, the last item from the bag, everything's going to go inside, right? So that's how I always remember. I'm shifting things around when I remove something from the front. Unshift is basically you have to pull stuff up and then just insert, right, in the front. So any question on this one? Try this out. Actually, programming is fun if you understand it. You grasp the idea. It's a lot of fun. You need to think in the sense, oh, you know what? I wanna try this. I want to insert something inside. I want to remove something inside. I want to see what happens. I want to empty the whole thing, empty the whole bag, right? How do I empty the whole bag? Multiple ways. I can just let's empty this bag, right? How do I do that? Any idea? I want to empty this bag. Any ideas? How do I completely empty this bag? Yeah, delete, but remember shift and yeah, you can delete the array if you wanna. That's a good point. You can delete the array, but if you want to keep the bag, right? If you delete it, the bag is gone, right? And there's a way to delete this bag. I can simply do this. I can say bag equal to this, which means it's an empty bag. Okay. But it's not the same bag again. If I want to keep the same bag, this is actually a new bag in a way, right? Whenever I use equal sign, I'm actually getting a new value. So one way to do this is you just simply do this bag dot pop bag dot pop. How many times? 4 times, right? Think about, if you have a bag full of items, you just pop 1 item, 2 item, 3 item, 4 item, right? Everything is empty. Okay. Instead of pop, you can also do shift. It gets it from the front, right? You can mix a shift and pop. It doesn't matter, right? So I'll just do shift and pop. One from the front, one from the back. It's done, right? But I have to do 4 times because I have 4 items. This is how I can empty the bag. Okay. If you whenever there is a problem to solve, imagine how would you do, in a real life. A lot of times, when I ask a question, a lot of students just like they may have some idea, but they're not gonna say anything. And then after I give an explanation, they're like, oh yeah, I had the same idea, but I did not say anything, right? So whenever I ask a question, just whatever pops in your head first, just answer that. Just say, hey, this is how I'm going to do this, right? Chances are that you have a, your answer is correct. There are times when not right, but that's fine. Okay, at least that actually ignites your thinking process, and you feel good when you are right, right? In programming, you also need to feel good when you're wrong, right? Saying something is wrong is at least you have tried. Okay. Programming is all about trial and error, right? If you know something, try it, and then if it doesn't work, try something else, right? So yeah, so remember, to insert at the end, use pop, right? Insert at the front, use unshift. Remove from the end is, oh, sorry, insert, this should be push, my bad. Pop, and then remove from the front is shift, right? Okay. So now you learn how to do from the front and at the back. What about it from the middle? What if I want to insert something in the middle, or want to remove something from the middle? What ideas do you have in your head? Think of this way: you have a bag full of items, and there is a your favorite candy is stuck inside the bag, right? You know, like when I remember when I used to go to grocery shopping with my mom, you know, she would buy a bunch of stuff and then there'll be something that I really like to eat. And then she'll put it in a bag, right? Now it's somewhere stuck inside the middle, right? I want to remove that. How do I remove that? In a physical world. Let's talk about physical world. Any ideas? Anyone? How would you remove that candy or cake, whatever you have in the, from the middle of the bag, right? I'm sure you have some idea. Yeah. Well, yeah, pull, right? So basically you need to remove. So if you have something in the middle, right? Because if I just grab stuff from here, from the middle, I may disturb everything, and you know, I may not, my mom may not like it, right? So what I would do is there are multiple ways to do it. Think of this way. I would get another bag or just I'll put stuff on the platform, right? Where I am. So I'm just gonna remove one item, two item, remove the candy, and put stuff back, right? So if I want to insert something, uh, I can do it that way, right? So there's another way of doing it, but I just want you to think in that term, right? So let's say if I want to insert kale between pencil and milk, then what I would need to do is I would create another bag, bag one, okay? It's an empty bag. Then what I would do is I would say item one equal to bag dot pop. Okay, so what happens when I do pop? And I'm gonna give you a shorter version, but I want to give you first difficult version where I do everything manually, right? Because I want you to visualize this. If I pop this item, what am I pop? What this item would be? Anyone? Oh, you can speak up as well. That's fine. What this item would be if I do pop? Uh, not a pencil. It's going to be a computer, right? Because a pop always does the last item, and it gives you back. Actually, this I didn't teach you, but when you pop something, you can actually save that item into a variable, right? So what I did, I said pop the last item from the bag, and then save it into this item. So if let me console this out. If I console log item one, right? You'll get computer, right? And if I look at the bag itself, what is the status of my bag? I won't have computer inside because I removed it, right? So now I removed like the computer from my bag, and now I have it outside, right? Okay. Either I can keep it there. Let's say if I don't use this, let's not even use a separate bag. I'm just putting it on the platform somewhere, right? So I remove the item one. Then I'm also going to remove okay. So what is going to be the item two? Anyone? Yep. Milk, right? Because I already removed the computer here. So now the item two is milk. Okay, so now, so this is item 1. This is item 2. Let's clear this up. Let's run this. Okay, so the first item I remove is computer. Second item I remove is milk. Now my array has only 2 items, right? So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take the bag and I'm going to push kale in it, right? Because it has 2 items. So I can insert kale, and then all I have to do is put the rest of the item back. 2 back, then I'm going to push item 1 back, right? And now if I run it again, let me clear this and run this, right? I have kale in the middle. This is a hard way of doing things, but I want you to at least visualize it, right? You take the item, put it on the side, which means when I say put it in the side, I'm just saving in the variable. I'm going to take another item, put it in the side. Then I'm going to put the kale, right? Which is going to be third, put the milk back and computer back, right? Programming, it's nothing but mimicking the real life scenarios. If you can solve a problem in real life, right? Which we all do, right? Let's say if your mom brought you a bag of things, right? And there's a candy in between, you're gonna find a way to remove it. And most probably you're gonna either go inside, put your hand inside and just try to grab it. And if you know that you're gonna disturb the whole environment and your mom's gonna be angry, then you're gonna remove items from the top of it until you find that candy, right? Remove the candy and then put the stuff back in that same order that it was, because at least you don't want anyone to notice that the candy is missing, right? So I've created a real life scenario where you can do this, right? And again, it's a simple functions: push, pop, unshift, shift. You have all these tools that you can use to do this. So um, let me give you interesting example. I want you to insert kale in the front without using unshift. How would you do this? I don't want you to use unshift. So at the end, you will have kale, pen, pencil, milk, and computer. So you will have kale as the first. How would you do it? If you can do it with unshift, it's pretty simple, right? But I want you to do the hard way, which means you don't have all the tools at your disposal. Let's all try this, okay? And then, so when you console log back at the end, it should look something like this. Okay. So the result should be this. And as I said, do not use insert or do not use unshift. I would think of it this way, that you had taken, you want to put something at the bottom, basically, bottom of the bag, right? How would you do that? I'm going to give you, let's say, 3 minutes or 4 minutes, let's say. So we'll come back 5:02. And you can copy paste whatever the solution in the, like a private chat. Think of this scenario, like you went to get some groceries, and your mom asked you to get some kale, right? But then you forgot. But now, you know, uh, you put the bag, and mom is like, okay, do you have kale? You say, yeah, it's in the bottom. But she doesn't look at it right now, but she's gonna use it later on. So what do you just run quickly out, get the kale, and then put it at the bottom of the bag, so she wouldn't notice, right? Um, how would you do that? And as I said, if you don't understand, don't think too hard. Whatever comes in your head, try it, right? That's how I would suggest. All right. Anyone still working on it? Okay. So remember, so I have this bag, right? And I need to put kale at the bottom, right? So, which means I have to pretty much remove everything one by one and save it outside in a variable, right? So what I would do is literally I would pop everything out, right? So I would say let item 1 equal to bag dot pop, right? That's the first item. And I'm just gonna copy paste this 4 times. So there are 4 items, but each item I need a different name, right? Because or literally I can also call it computer. This is milk. So it's easier for me to remember, right? Right. So I remove all these items. Now it's all the items are in this. And if I just console log bag, it would be empty, right? Let's see. You see, it's an empty bag now. Okay, so then after that, I'm just gonna push. First, I need to push the kale, right? Because bag is completely empty. Then I would say bag dot push kale, right? Then I want to push the item that was at the front, which is pen. So I need to push pen, pencil, milk, and computer. Okay, so I would do this. Oh, sorry. It's a so first one is actually not a variable, but these guys are variable, right? Because I've created this. It's inside this variable. So right. Right. And then I'm gonna console log this again. So you must be wondering why the first item is an array. I mean, sorry, string, and rest are not, because what I did is these are variables, which means I could have done this, right? Like 1. So it's not confusing, right? Which means I'm just gonna take that variable and then pushing it here. And it would do the same thing. Right. But this is a harder way. I just wanted to think, you usually don't never do that. But I want you to, you know, take your programming hat, put it on the side, and take your, other skills and applying in programming. Right. Yeah. Any questions? Okay. All right. So usually if I want to insert something in the middle, I would not do this because that's longer way. But you learn a lot from this exercise, right? Usually there is a method called splice. So I would say bag dot splice. Okay. Splice means slice it from the middle somewhere, right? So this method actually not only you can add or remove both. So the way the method works is, let's just write it here. So splice, you need to, first argument is you need to pass the index to enter. Index of insert, which means where do you wanna insert? Okay, is it here? Is it here? Is it here? Or is it here? Right? And remember the index we learned about is, you know, if you want to insert here, this is the 0th index. This is 1 index. This is 2. And this is 3, right? So if I say I want to insert here, right? Whatever item I'm inserting, it's going to move pen to the right. It always moves stuff to the right if you insert something. If I insert at 1, it's going to move pencil to the right, then milk and computer, everything else would move, right? It's like somebody's cutting in the line, right? So index itself is exactly where you want to enter. Okay. So let's say if I insert, we did the kale, right? The kale we did at here after pencil. So I would say it's 2. So I want to insert kale at number 2 index, right? The second argument would be how many items I want to remove. Okay. Let's say I don't want to remove anything. Then I'm just going to say 0, right? Because this operation does removing and inserting both at the same time. But let's assume that you're not removing, you just want to insert something. So then you just say kill. Okay. So here I'm inserting at number 2 item kill, but I'm not removing anything. So, and then the third item would be item to insert, right? So the first is index of where you're inserting. Second is number of items that you want to remove. And then third is the item to insert, right? It's a little hard to understand, but once you use it many times, you'll get hang of it, right? So let's say if I do then bag dot, console log bag and run this. Okay, there's some error. Let's understand what it is. Errors are actually good. Errors tells you that there's something, it says unexpected number. It's because of these guys, because I inserted these stuff, but they're not supposed to be code, right? So yeah. So yeah. I have kale here, right? The second. So all of the stuff that we did in a previous example can be done with a single item. Okay. Any questions? Yeah.
So slice is the shortcut way of doing what we just did with pop.
Yeah. No, this is not pop. This is insert in the middle somewhere. I mean, you can use this to create pop as well, right? So yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but
Yeah, go ahead.
So I guess pop would take it took each item one by one and put
Yeah.
it in its own separate bag.
Yes.
And with splice, it's saying, okay, I want to add it at after the second index or at the second index?
At the second index.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
So this is 0, this is 1, and this is 2. So basically I want to insert remove milk, not a remove in the sense, move the milk on the side. It's like cutting in the line, right? So if I say second index, which means milk has to move to the right, right? And then computer would have to move as well. So think of this splice is like you invented a machine that is really good at inserting things inside the bag, right? You just tell it, I want to insert a number 2 index, kale, and I don't want to remove anything. Okay. If I say I want to remove something at the same time, which means I want to remove at the index 1, index 2, which is milk, right? This is where I want to insert. And I want to remove one item. Okay, one item, whichever item is at the index 2, which is milk, remove that item, and then insert kale. So in this case, I'm replacing kale, milk with kale. Okay, so let's run this. Right?
Okay, got it.
Right. So I'm inserting and also removing at the same time. What if I say remove 2? Which means from here, first it removes it, right? So it would remove milk and computer, and then it would insert kale. Right. So let me first clear it and then run it. So you see pen, pencil, kale. Right. So this splice is quite a handy thing, right? Let's build pop using splice. Sorry, yeah, let's build pop. Build pop using splice, right? What does it mean? Which means whatever you do with pop. So let me just keep the splice here so you have a reference. So usually when I do pop, right, I would say bag dot pop. What would happen is it will remove the last item, which is computer, right? So if I run this, I would get pen, pencil, and milk, right? Computer is gone. The same functionality I want to build using the splice. I don't want to use pop. I want to use splice to pop, basically. How would I do that? Let's try this. You can't use splice.pop. You need, basically, you just need to use splice and not use pop at all. Because with splice, see, the thing is, pop always remove from the end. Unshift always removes from the shift always removes from the front, right? So you can do only things in the front or back using pop, push, unshift, and shift. With splice, you can do it any location. You can do from the front, back, middle, anywhere, right? So let's say you are prohibited to use pop. You just only have splice. You have this fancy computer that does all this magical stuff. You already know the splice, the way splice works is you can define where you want to insert, where do you want to remove, things like that. So let's just build pop using this functionality. Any ideas? How would that work? Yep. Okay, so pop, we already know, all it does, it removes computer, right, from here. So if you want to do the same thing, we're going to build it, the splice. So I'm just going to comment this out. So let's start from the beginning. First, you need to provide where do you want to remove from, right? So the index is 0, 1, 2, and 3. I already know that the third index, third index is where I want to remove stuff from. And then how many items I want to remove? One item, right? Which is computer. I'm not adding anything, so I don't need to provide anything after that. That's it. It will give you exactly the same thing. Splice 3, 1, which from index 3, remove one thing. Okay. How about build unshift? Okay, looks like splice 3 also works. Raheem said, and he tried it out. Let's see. Actually, I've never tried this. Splice 3 works as well. If you just say 3, it removes the last item. If I want to build unshift, shift, then I would just say splice 0 would remove the very first item, which is pen. And then I have to provide 1 here, seems like. Right. Any questions? All right. Okay, it seems like I've actually misspelled pencil. You guys glad that I'm not an English teacher? Otherwise, you'd be learning wrong things. Okay, so remember this, right? Push adds at the bottom, the top of the or left side of the array. I would consider this is a front, this is a back. So it removes from the back. Shift removes from the front. Unshift adds to the front. Push adds to the back. Splice can remove or add anywhere. Okay, so that's the beauty of it. All right. Any question before we move away from this? Okay. Okay. Next thing is, so we know how to remove stuff. We need to know how to add stuff, right? Now let's look at something different. The arrays are useful, excuse me, are useful when you have items, right? Let's think about this way. In a real life, let's say you get a list of things, you have some sort of other properties associated with it too, right? So nobody's gonna say get some milk, right? Yeah, computer, they can say, but nobody's gonna say get milk, right? They'll say, okay, get a carton of milk, or maybe it could be weight, or it could be quantity, and things like that, right? So what if I give you, say, give me dozen pens, right? Um, let's say 2 pencils. Okay. 1 gallon of milk, right? Things like that, right? So in real life, your lists are going to be more complex. They're not going to be this simple, right? So how would you deal with it? So this format works if you have just simple items like numbers, names, and things like that. If you have a more than that, you need something called object. An object it's a key value pair. It's called key value pair. What does it really mean? So key here is pen. So I can say pen. I want 2 pen. Okay. So this is an object. Okay. So instead of having like this a square bracket, I need a curly bracket. Left side is the item, and then right side is the value. Okay. So in order to build this object, you can, let's build this object. So I'm going to build called a new bag. And this time I'm going to use a curly bracket. Okay. And JavaScript objects have key and value, right? So I can say pen 2 colon 2. This means 2 pen. Then pencil, let's say 12. Milk 1. Computer 1. Okay. And left side is always a string, but you don't really have to put quotes around it. It's expected to be string, so you don't really. But the right side you need to provide quotes because that's a value, right? So what is the difference between these two? This is more sequential, right? It's like a bag. Something is the bottom, something at the top. This one is not sequential. Think of like a tray of items sitting in front of you, which means you can see all these items, right? And you can just grab any item. There's no first, no last, no in the middle, right? So it doesn't have indexes. Doesn't have indexes, right? So arrays have indexes. So arrays, let's think of the arrays, right? Have indexes, right? Objects don't. Right? So how do I get, let's say, milk? Because there's no index. If I want to grab milk here from here, then I can call console log bag, and I can pass the index, which is, let's say, second index, right? 0, 1, 2. I'm just going to pass 2 here. And if I run this, I would get the bag, right? I mean, milk. But if I want to get, this, I already know because all the things are in front of you, right? So you can say, if I want to grab something from here, you would say new bag, and then you would say, I want to get milk. You pass the key, which is milk, and it gives you the value, which is the number of item. Okay. So key is sort of like a way to get the item from inside, right? Make sense? All right. Let's get number of computers from the new bag. Let's try that. I want to get this number of computers, which is 1. Now I showed you how to get the number of milk, right? I want you to get number of computers. How do you do that? I'll be back in a second. Put your answer in the chat. Okay. Any idea how to get number of computers? Yep. So if I want to get number of computers, all I have to do is same thing. Whichever item I want to grab, right? I'm just going to pass computer. right? So give me 1, 1, right? 1 for milk, 1 for computer. So why do we use this? I mean, this I understand, right? A list of things, a bag. This, in a way, it's, it seems like we already know all the items. We're just getting the value. It's like you may have keys to multiple lockers, and these are the treasures, right, inside. So in a way, if you look at the difference here, if I want to compare when I try to get a second item from the bag, which is milk, right? I'm passing the index, which is 0, 1, 2, right? Here, I'm passing also sort of like the index or key, which is on the right side, right? Which is, so milk is in a way a key. Here, the key is 2. In a way, if I were to convert this into this object, I would do something like this, right? I would the index itself would be, the key itself would be the index, right? And then pen, 1, pencil, right? 2 would be milk, and 3 would be computer, right? So I can say, give me value of 2, it gives me milk. Right? But in this case, you don't have quantity or anything. It is just a bunch of items, right? Here I have actually items and quantities. So because they are like sort of like indexes, these are now indexes. It has, it has to be unique, right? Because here you will never have another 0. It's always incrementing, and every position has a fixed value. In here, you don't have a fixed value. I can switch between pen and pencil, but I'm never gonna have 2 pencils, right? I'm only gonna have 1 pen, one item, 1 key called pen, 1 key called pencil, and things like that, right? We only use like 2 data structures, so don't be afraid that, oh, why we have this many, right? We're only going to be 2, so it's either going to be object, or arrays. So only 2 data structure. If you're thinking that, oh, this guy's gonna, come up with a new data structures, I mean, there are a few other data structures, but these 2 are the main, right? So if you can conquer this 2, you probably understand, half of programming. Okay. Any questions? Okay. I was gonna start something new, but I think I'm sure your brain is already fried with all this information. So I will let it sit before I introduce a new concept. But as I said, if you want to learn programming, there are these paths. So let's talk about it, right? So I'm going to show you what I'm going to cover. And it doesn't matter which programming language you learn. These are the standard. So you can always learn how to define the variables. Right? So how to store stuff inside. Then you're always going to learn data types. Right? string, numbers, Boolean. It could have like a basic data type, like strings, stuff like, or you can have complex, like arrays or objects, right? And then you'll always learn methods, like pop is a method, push is a method, all these methods, right? So this covers variable and data types and the methods. Next thing you're going to learn is okay, are there any good website? Well, there's actually a cool website. Let me see. There's a one actually pretty good website that I'm gonna Code Academy, this one. Okay, I'm gonna put it in the chat. Make sure you bookmark this. It's pretty neat actually. So the way it works is, you know, let's just run it. Ah, shoot. I'm just gonna use my GitHub account. Okay, but obviously you have to register. Ah, man, it says, why do I want to do that? Learn for fun. Okay, right? You guys choose whatever makes sense to you. Then you go next. Yeah, and also what Raheem, you know, Free Code Camp is pretty good website as well. You can see here now. So the way we have the code sandbox, which is CodePen, right? They provide their own code sandbox, which is this area, right? So the cool thing about this website, and I would recommend just going through it for more practice, is that it says, you know, it will tell you to do something, right? It says, okay, use console log in the editor to log your age to the console. Okay, so so I'm gonna do console log. My age is 21. Of course, I'm kidding. And then run this. Okay, you see, as soon as I follow the instruction, it says, oh yeah, you were right. Okay, so this is pretty cool. So now I've passed this level. It asked me something to do. I did it and it works. So I'm gonna go next. On the next line, write another console log to print out a different number representing the number of weeks you've been programming. Okay, so I'm just gonna say console log 5,000 because that many weeks I've been programming. I've been programming since, I don't know if this is the exact number, but I've been programming for a long time. So I'm just gonna run this. Okay, and it doesn't really look at, like, it doesn't verify how many weeks you've been programming because you don't, it doesn't know, right? But what it makes sure is that you have written a number and you have written in a right format and it prints it out, right? So that's pretty neat. And then, so now you've conquered this concept. It also has something called cheat sheet. So if I click on here, it gives you whatever you learn. It has all these cool information about it, so you can try this out, right? It's all about variables. So whatever you learn here, just try all of these things out. I would suggest just go and, you know, just do brute force. Okay. As I said, programming can be difficult in the beginning because you don't have all these concepts. So if you get stuck, you're like, okay, I think this is not for me, right? But it's not like that. It's just because you you haven't practiced enough, you haven't learned enough, right? It's not a rocket science. You're putting stuff in the bag and removing stuff in the bag from the bag, right? It's pretty much like that throughout, right? It's all the physical stuff that you do. You're going to be coding, right? So I would suggest, go through this, and this is an excellent source. It's a self-learning guide in a way, right? So then I go next, how to write a comment, right? So this is how you write comment, right? If I run this, it types a comment, right? Then you pick the practice example. Let's practice adding some code comment. To the right, you provided we provided you with the beginning of the Catch-22 by Joseph Heller. On line 1, write a single line comment that says opening line. Okay, so I'm going to put a comment here, and I'm going to say opening line, right? And then run again. When I run it, it says, yeah, whatever I told you, you've done it right, right? So you pass this level, and you do a second one, and then there's always a cheat sheet. So this is really good. I would suggest, go through it. It'll take you, through everything that we learned in this class, step by step. Okay, and also check out the free code camp org as well. That's also pretty cool. And then there are some other tools as well. They're actually, I forgot the name of it. It's like a free university. Shoot, what was that? Let's see. Free coding university. There was I forgot the name of it, but it'll come to me. So you see all of these code camp, all of these are with the degree. Okay, hold on, let me see. Certificate. For a degree, let's put a degree here. Oh, Udacity, that's the one. Udacity, this guy. Okay. I think it's free, I'm not sure, but check this out as well. Okay, so Udacity as well. And then I think Code Academy. Did I put the link in there? I forgot if I did. Right. But this is also another link. So this, I think the way it works is for individuals, you can pick a program. Okay. Let's say, introduction to, so there's an introduction to programming. Okay. Introduction to programming. So this is a 4-month course. I think it's free one. Then there is these are called nano degrees, which means in 4 months, you learn how to program. Okay. If you, and that just teaches you a specific language. I'm not sure if it's going to teach you like the one we're going to learn is React also in this class, right? It teaches you this as well, right? There's a JavaScript, there's a front end. So this is the one is I'm teaching here, front end. Front end is basically JavaScript, HTML, CSS, React, all of it, right? But I would suggest start with just programming. The only thing is I have to check which program. Let's look at the program detail. Look at the syllabus. The only thing I hate about it is, you know, they don't really give you. But anyway, yeah, you can see it here. Skill covered, basic HTML. Okay, it teaches you Python. That's the only difference. Python syntax. So Python is it's a different language than JavaScript. Okay. It also teaches you basic JavaScript and JavaScript function and arrays and all that stuff that we covered. Remember, it says JavaScript function, we covered arrays, and we covered objects, right? So we pretty much covered everything that they are teaching. But yeah, I mean, this is also Udacity is also a great platform, I would say. I think it's free. I'm not sure. I think it's free. Okay, but check it out. It has really some of the things I really like about nowadays is, you know, things that used to be kind of outside of people's reach. Like when I was learning programming, you know, I really have to go to university to learn something, right? Nowadays, everything that you like computer vision, right? I would say don't just go in randomly, you know, some courses, because you just make sure that you look at this advanced or intermediate, right? Otherwise, you know, you're gonna be super confused. I will always go for a beginner course on something, and then they have like a paths. So look at those, like a cloud developer or whatnot, right? AWS cloud architect, things like that. So yeah, I would always go through it and then make sure that I you know, and if you're confused, let me know. I can help you with it. But this I feel you should be able to do Code Academy. You should be able to do, you know, while you're doing this class, because this is very relevant to this class. Okay. Any last question before we end? All right. Thank you guys. And yeah, I'll see you next week. Yep, definitely. Yeah. Make sure that you look at these sites and play around with it. Okay.